The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Greetings again, boys and ghouls. As the Brandon Peters Spook Show continues its carousel of horror through the first season of Tales from the Crypt. Joining me today for the tale and all through the house, I have writer Katie Rife.
You didn't say boils and ghouls. I'm
Boils.
leaving.
Oh, I see.
Goodbye.
It's been a time. That's a good episode. Tune in tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
One of my favorite things to do is to come up with Crypt Keeper puns, though. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah. He's my favorite. So we're here for Tales of Crypt, which is an idea that came from you, honestly, back when you were on the episode with Lady Snowblood.
Yeah.
And here it is come to fruition. So
yes, and you really made this work. Initially, I said, sure, I'll co-host this series with you.
Mhm.
And then I went, oh, fuck, I got a lot going on. I'm so sorry. And you made it work anyway. And so cheers to you, really.
I guess. Or I'm taking your idea and just destroying it.
No, stop. No. The thing is with me is that I get excited about things. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then I realize that I've said that 5 times that day. And then, oops, I have to walk it back sometimes. It's a little embarrassing, actually. I need to work on it.
Hey, you have the courage to do it. But, it's funny. Like, and I just said, well, pick which one you want to do, and I was like, well, you kick it off, and you're like, I would rather do this one, so we're doing the one you picked.
Well, I have a special affection for this one because I absolutely love Killer Santa movies and TV series and stuff. And actually, one of the first things I wrote when I started at AV Club was a semi-comprehensive inventory, which is what we call our lists at AV Club, of Killer Santas. It's 18 different entries, which is fairly comprehensive. Like, I even have a Japanese Killer Santa movie.
Do you have the Santa sleigh in there with Bill Goldberg?
Of course. And I have Christmas Evil in there. I have Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, but not the other ones because they stray from the Christmas theme after that. I have Rare Exports. I have... the Futurama episode with the Killer Santa. I have Satan Claus, Santa Claus, CLAWS. Santa, You Will Die was another one. Feeders 2, Sleigh Bells, which is just, I don't think anybody really needs to watch that one, but it has a Killer Santa in it and aliens. So that's kind of fun.
How old is that one?
That one is from 1998.
Okay.
It's one of those ones that they didn't get lights. You can tell that they're just using the regular light in the room. So it's really hard to tell what's going on. But it had Killer Santa and aliens, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, the Santa Claus conquers the Martians. Is that the one?
Oh yeah, Santa Claus conquers the Martians, but he doesn't.
But he doesn't kill anybody. No, he doesn't even kill the Martians. But
yeah. Well, I love Killer Santas, and so this was like an obvious one for me. It really starts with something we were talking about before we started recording, which is the Garbage Day clip from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, an early YouTube sensation.
Yes. We all know of that one. I was looking up. I was because you said Sleigh Bells. Is that what you said was the one? Or
Feeders 2, Sleigh Bells, SLAY.
Okay, because there was a Sleigh Bells from 2018 I did a
Really?
because I did a convention with Barry Bostwick, and he would not fucking shut up about it because he's like, you like cult
Well,
movies? You seen Sleigh Bells yet? And I was like, no, what is it? He's like, oh, you haven't seen it? I was like, and it was a new movie. I'm like, well, okay, but I was like, I thought you were referring to that. I was like, oh wow. So sorry for
no, I wrote this in 2014. Actually, it's one
Okay.
of the first things I wrote for the AV Club.
Hmm.
So it is outdated at this point.
Gotcha.
It ran it for Christmas 2014.
Sorry, Barry.
But Jesus Christ, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't even know each other then.
No,
Nope.
no. I met you when I was writing about the Halloween series.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're my source. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's back again on home videos for 4K.
Oh,
Fun.
yeah. Well, and there's Halloween Kills, which
And Halloween Kills.
we could talk.
Everybody's talking about Halloween Kills. I'm talking about Halloween Kills on Out Now with Aaron and Abe. So you can go to that podcast and hear my thoughts about Halloween Kills. So
Hey,
there you have it.
Plug.
Huh?
I'm not
afraid to plug other people's shows, especially if they have me on it. Especially if they have me on it. So especially if they have me
but yeah, when you brought this idea back up again, it was easy for me. Like I wanted to do this one because Killer Santa movies are kind of in my wheelhouse. So
awesome. And you can almost get to like Christmas Day starting in December with Killer Santa movies alone.
Yeah, pretty
almost
much.
There. You can add Barry Bostwick's to it. So
I'd say there's probably about a dozen like decent to good ones, and then the rest of the days in December you're going to be scraping that barrel. But that's what
yeah. I like the one the guy from Last House on the Left directed. It's got the girl from got the girl from Ghostbusters that's in the beginning.
Yeah,
I like that one quite a bit, and it predates Silent Night Deadly Night with the Killer Santa.
True.
To All a Good Night. That was it. Yes, that's what I like. Yes. But yeah, so bring it Tales of the Crypt. You branch out, but like, what's your like? Did you watch it as it aired? Were you too young? Did you not have HBO? Did you watch the syndication? Where's your history with it?
Well, I didn't get into Tales from the Crypt until my adulthood, actually, because when I was a kid, we never really had cable. It was not really part of my upbringing, except for one summer where my uncle was a cable guy and he came by the house and one day just flipped the switch and we had cable for like a couple months, and it was over the summer, which was fantastic for me because I was off school, and so I just sat and watched.
Why go outside? Fuck it.
HBO for like weeks at a time. And my parents were savvy. I think they knew that this wasn't going to last forever, and so they taped. They would just run tapes, long play tapes, and just tape like hours and hours of HBO at a time. And that's what we watched my whole childhood. So like I know a lot about movies that came out in like 1990 or 91, because that was around that was the summer we had HBO.
That's great.
So yeah, they still have them at their house, all these hand labeled tapes with like the date and HBO and what movies were on it and stuff like that.
I have one. I found it at my wife's parents' house as VHS, and I just had to keep it. It was labeled A Christmas Story and A Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was just they taped it on HBO. They like Christmas Story must have been at 8. Elm Street was on at like 10. And
yeah, you would get those kind of fun juxtapositions sometimes.
She's like, "You're making fun of me." I'm like, "No, this is awesome. This is."
No, I'm not making fun of you at all.
No, I told my wife. She thought I kept it and took it from my in-laws' house. They didn't want it. They're like, take that VHS tape out of here. But I'm like, this is hilarious. She's like, you just took it to make. I'm like, no, this is awesome. It's great.
No, it's awesome because there was like over the course of, because like I said, I grew up watching these like long play tapes, super long play even. That's a shout out for the VHS era.
EP, SOP, SP, we got it.
Yeah, baby, SOP. So yeah, they would just tape it for like hours at a time. And so when you started the tape, it was something family friendly, but by the end of the tape, it would get to a horror movie. And that was the best part for me.
Heck yeah. It's funny. the things we did with VHS. I had the entire series of Get Smart on VHS taped off Nick at Night for reruns. I was even it was even to a point where we went on a vacation and I was going to be out of town when an episode aired, and I had to make my aunt set up her VCR to make sure it taped, because I didn't want to have to wait till it got way back around to that episode, and I wanted them to be in order. So she had to tape some episodes for me while I was on a spring break when I was a kid. And she's like, and she didn't understand. She did it, but they're like, who fucking cares? It's a rerun. I'm like, it is not.
You're like, it has to be in order.
But guess what? When it's on VHS, I can watch it whenever I want.
So you've always been the person that you are today, is what you're telling me right now.
Yeah. I will say, the minute that thing Get Smart came out on DVD, and you had to call like Time Life to order it, I ordered the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
So
nice.
the VHSs had long been retired. I didn't hold on to them for that long. I should have, but
I held on to some just for nostalgia value. I have some of the tapes from my parents' house, that are just like kind of labeled with what was on HBO that day. It'll be like July 18th, 1989 or whatever. Just everything that was on HBO that day.
Oh, that's
and
great.
The one thing that you miss, you get the promos and stuff, which is great, but the one thing you miss out on, because HBO doesn't have commercials, you don't get the old commercials.
Yeah. We were when I did on this show, when we did Old Space Show The Heights, the recordings of it, we watched some of them, like I think 8 of the episodes had commercials still in there. So we made we made a spot in the show just to talk about the commercials. And now the listeners demanded, and we're doing a regular segment once in a while, just talking about commercial reels on YouTube. So that's what my listeners want. I guess they want me to watch and talk about commercials.
But it really is the best. So like if you're watching an old episode of something on YouTube or something like that, and they let the commercial breaks in, it's really, it gives it it really places it, in its time.
And you used to be able to like get up and do stuff and come back. Take a break in the middle.
Well, I'm cheap, so I have the Hulu with ads, so I do
too. I do too. And I'm like a minute and a half. I can pee, I can make tea, I can do this, and I can walk down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Like, I'm not being cheap. I'm just like maximizing my time. I need those commercial breaks to go do stuff.
I'm like 4 or 5 years strong on that Hulu with ads, like 99 cent, $1.99 a month for a year, Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing. So that's my Hulu, and I probably use it enough to maybe justify that. So who knows?
The only problem with those, though, is especially when streaming, it's less so now, but when streaming was still relatively new, they would play the same commercial every single ad break, and you really thought you were gonna.
Yeah, they still do. They still do. Those CW shows have like 3 advertisers on their streamer.
Yeah.
And 2 of them's himself.
I was watching a bunch of James Bond movies for a thing for AV Club, and one of the commercials on the reel was a local carpet company that had made a James Bond parody commercial.
Oh, that sounds golden.
I must have seen that thing 15, 20 times when I was watching it,
Wow.
Dr. No and On Her Majesty's Secret Service and all that stuff.
Oh, fun. So you found Tales from the Crypt later in life.
Yeah, I didn't find Tales from the Crypt until I was in college, and I had a friend who was into it. And I was like, this is amazing, because it was, it was horror, but it was like punny. And I think I like low humor, not like, well, I do enjoy a good fart and poop joke. Don't get me wrong. I'm not above it, but like stupid, corny, punny wordplay. I love all that kind of stuff. It's super funny to me. Like at work, my editor, like our copy editors are always like, Katie, you need to dial it back with the wordplay. And I'm like, but it's fun. And so obviously.
So that's why I haven't driven you away yet. Awesome. It's good to know.
And so obviously the Crypt Keeper was like way up my alley. No, I had a friend who had some of these on DVD in college, and that's when I first saw them.
Mm-hmm. This is the second episode of this, but I have recorded ones that go beyond this already. But we've talked about how Crypt Keeper also appealed to kids in a crazy way because they ended up with a Saturday morning cartoon. It's like crazy.
Oh, big time. It's a similar phenomenon. I've talked with Mike Vanderbilt, who's been on the show before, about this. And
I miss you, Mike. Call me Mike. Miss him.
I feel like the Crypt Keeper is really in some ways sort of a spin-off of how Freddy Krueger was a character.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we had like the whole like R-rated things that kids like, the Rambo, RoboCop, Freddy, Jason, Crypt Keeper, Chucky, like all these R-rated things that kids.
It's of a piece with all that stuff, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, I personally like, I would, if they had like an HBO preview or the Scramble came on, I would watch it, or friend's house, like, hey, watch Tales from the Crypt, you have HBO, you should show me Tales from the Crypt. But yeah. And I've gone through, I don't know if I've seen every single episode. I've seen a lot of them, but going through this, I'm seeing them. I've seen this first season is very familiar to me. So, because usually start, and I have a DVD set that I got I'd like one of those glitch sales where it's like $12. Yeah, okay. And it really came.
Ooh, hell yeah. Absolutely.
And it's all of them, and they're not DVDRs. They're the straight up thing. It also made my Blu-ray.
They listed the price wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I love when that happens. You get a whole set for like $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's the best, because they rarely cancel your order if it goes through, you know?
Right.
You still get it.
There was like a $60 Marx Brothers set I got for like $10 one time for that. It's out of print now too. So it's like, haha.
Can I complain though about Tales from the Crypt? It's right hell. I'm absolutely certain of this. Why is it not on streaming? I would watch this all the time.
Right. No, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
It's not.
It's not on streaming. Does HBO not quite have the rights to it? That I thought was.
I think there's just so many people involved that have to sign off on something like this. You know, all the different directors and whatnot. I think anthologies are especially difficult to clear because there's a lot of writers and directors and stuff involved. But it is criminal to me that you can't watch Tales from the Crypt on HBO Max. It bums me out because I didn't grow up with it, but I really like the show and I love putting it on, and I love that EC comic style morality tale stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I would have it on in the background like all the time if it was on streaming.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can find it on Tuba Views if you look. But those are obviously, I noticed they're rips from the DVDs because they're missing the intro. The intro on the DVDs plays before the menu, and then you select the episode and then here's Crypt Keeper, which is the wrong way to do it, in my opinion. But
you need to have the intro. You
should just have a menu and then hit play and then the intro. Just play the episode proper.
Yeah, play twice. It's fine. Play the intro in the menu and when you start the episode.
Both. There you go. Make an intro for the menu. So more puns, like, you know, could have more stuff, but that's what it is.
What would it be like? I'm trying to think of a scary pun on DVD.
Like,
I'm gonna file that away in the back of my brain, and then midway through the episode, I'm gonna just blurt it out.
That's it loudly. It once made my Blu-ray wish list one year. My annual article, but
you mean a Blu-ray?
Blu-ray.
That one's easy.
You can incorporate the word video or DV.
Oh, you can just say DVD, I suppose.
DVD. Yeah.
DVD and Blu-ray.
Yes.
It's my favorite thing. I love the Crypt Keeper so much.
He's great. All right. So we are doing an all through the house.
Yeah. As teased earlier by the Killer Santa talk.
True. And when I said it at the top, but you know, hey.
Yeah, that too.
All right. So this is directed by Robert Zemeckis, written by Fred Decker, starring Mary Ellen Trainor, Larry Drake, Marshall Bell, and Lindsay Whitney Barry. Cinematography by Dean Cundy, and music by
Truly.
Alan Silvestri.
This is an all-star episode. These are like the all-stars of 80s Hollywood working on this episode.
This is probably they're all decently loaded. But this one is stacked in like multiple departments. Like
absolutely.
All the directors are somebody's in the season, but not so much. It's not always the writers, and cinematography and music. It's adding a whole nother layer. Like, Dean Cundy, they shoots Halloween, Carpenter's first half of his career. You got Back to the Future. You've got, like Zemeckis right here is in the middle of Back to the Future 2 and 3, and so is Cundy. Yeah. So
it's in was Zemeckis a EP on this season? I think he was.
Yeah, he was a producer. It was him, Geiler, Walter Hill, Joel Silver, and Richard Donner.
Also an all-star list.
Yeah.
Truly.
Tales from the Crypt is, as I keep saying, it's a horror anthology with big names in front of the camera, big names behind the camera, and it's this like Leah Thompson shows up in a later episode. She was obviously in the middle of Back to the Future 2 and 3 during this,
right?
And you have Fred Decker, who writes multiple episodes of Tales from the Crypt, but he
makes sense. It's his style.
Oh yeah, you have the Monster Squad, which is better than the Goonies. I will always say that. But
I kind of agree with you, actually.
Everybody should. Sorry, next episode's director Richard Donner, but I'm on Mr. Decker's side. Like, he's been put in some sort of weird, like, he randomly popped up for The Predator a couple years ago.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
And
he still works.
He still works, but I mean, like, what? I don't know. I like Fred Decker. And yeah, so this is Zemeckis' first dabbling in horror, really. Like, he'll do some other things after, like What Lies Beneath, Death Becomes Her, very horror type things, but this is his first dabbling into horror. Of course, Alan Silvestri, he was working on Back to the Future 2 and 3 at the time, so everybody's like, we take a break, shoot this Christmas Santa thing, and then we'll go back to do part 3. I don't know if that was the deal. Mary Ellen Trainor probably landed a little cameo in Back to the Future 2 because of this. She was because she shows up in that she shows up really quickly in that, and she was really busy at this time. Like, this is her peak character actor stuff. Like, she was she also worked with Zemeckis on Scrooge. She was in Die Hard, Action Jackson, and in Ghostbusters 2, Lethal Weapon 2 during this same year. It's like, damn.
Yeah,
she'd be working.
Busy year. Yeah, I mean, these were all like very in-demand people, and it must have been a passion project on some level, because it's not like any of them were wanting for work, so right. It was a deliberate choice that they all made to do this.
Or they just wanted to, like, getting together. Everybody's got to make this first season count. We got to, because I don't know what shows did HBO have at this time, because this is pre-Arliss even. So is this like
this was quite early in the HBO originals for sure. I don't know the whole history of it, but I know this was very early on.
Like, Mr. Show hadn't started yet. Like
no. That Mr. Show was like 10 years later. I was in college.
Was it 10 years? I thought Mr. Show was mid.
Yeah,
I thought it was mid 90s. This is when HBO was showing Mr. Bean reruns. Like, that's where you would see Mr. Bean was HBO. But yeah, so Larry Drake, he was on LA Law at the time. And this is before he played Dr. Giggles, and Darkman would be the next year for him. Like, it was funny. He played like this lovable dummy on LA Law, and then, like, every time he went to a movie, creepo, evil. It's kind of funny.
I need to correct myself though. Mr. Show was the mid 90s, and I watched it in the early 2000s when I was in college.
Okay,
and that's where the confusion came from. Yeah.
Well, the world revolves around you, so it happened at the late. So
your memories get all caught up.
Oh, I believe Believe me, I realize that. Oh, totally. So in this
With this
one,
one too,
what?
because I thought this was the first episode of this of the. I was confused about this one too. I thought it was the very first episode of Tales from the Crypt, but it's not.
You
It
weren't
is
wrong.
aired on the same night.
You weren't wrong. Like,
Yeah.
because they were the same night. And I'm wondering, like, I wonder if they shot everything for this and later decided what order and where things were coming.
I'd be curious to know that too. Yeah, because they really did bring out the heavy hitters for this episode. Like we were just saying, it's a long list of recognizable names that worked on this episode.
The first one we just had, it was, Walter Hill, William Sadler. Sadler, this is before, like, he wasn't even the villain in Die Hard yet. Or the second Die Hard. Hill was a big name. But that was where that was at. But yeah, like, and the next one's Richard Donner, and it's got Joey Pants and Robert Wool, but not at the time. That's not. They're just character actors you got. But
this first season, it seems like a lot of the kind of names and the weight that was being thrown into it was in the directors and the writers behind the camera. Like they had a few big names acting in it, but it was a lot of like character actors and stuff.
Another interesting like aspect of why I was like, why is this second, like the opening Crypt Keeper segment, he's covered up. Like he's wearing a Santa Claus outfit and he's got his face covered. I'm like,
creepy mask he's wearing, by the way.
It is really creepy. But I'm like, don't you want to keep him recognizable before you start messing with like his like? I get putting a Santa outfit on him, but the mask over his face, like that's like, wait, what's that guy look like again?
Well,
but
it's a horror show, and it does have a leather face kind of effect.
It does. And then this premiered in June, so nothing was going to hit close to Christmas after 5 weeks because it
makes to me, I will never understand why they put out Christmas stuff at other times of year. I think Gremlins came out in the summertime?
Yep, Gremlins and Ghostbusters open on the same day, that summer of '84.
Ooh, that's a big day.
That's crazy.
Like, why wouldn't Gremlins come out around Christmas time?
Yeah,
but it didn't.
Why did they start putting Halloween movies out in August?
Right, exactly.
Like,
at least Halloween Kills came out in October. That makes sense to me.
That and the last one, yeah. But the rest of them had been, August or Labor Day was the Rob Zombie one. But I think they thought they had. Well, it did make a lot of H2O was where they made the shift from not being in September or October, and they made a lot of money. So I think they were like, that's where the money is. Michael Myers in the summer. Let Jigsaw and Paranormal Activity have that October. So,
yeah. I'm always a little bummed when Halloween doesn't have like a nice solid slate of theatrical horror.
Yeah, I excuse this year because we're just.
Oh, sure, it's pure chaos right now.
This October this year looks like summer. Like all the big. And I said, I think I tweeted, I was like, hold on, we got James Bond, we got Michael Myers movie, we've got a new Wes Anderson movie, we got that Dune adaptation, we got Last Night. So I'm like, this is the most like branded month at the movies I think I've ever had in my life.
It's really, really a lot of names in the movies right now. I guess the secret cabal of Hollywood met back in January and decided that they were going to end the pandemic in time for October.
Right. But I mean, the things that just focused.
I don't mean that, by the way.
No.
I'm joking.
Insider info. She leaked it right here on the Brandon Peters Show, Tales from the Crypt special #2.
Oh no, there's a knock on the door and I get dragged away.
There you go. I'll have it on video, so we'll do that.
Yeah, see?
I just like, it's like the fact that they were all like aimed at like my taste. I'm just like, what the fuck? This is weird. But
I know these next couple weeks are super solid at the theater for sure.
Exactly. So this one has a greedy woman who makes the mistake of murdering her husband while an escaped mental patient dressed in a Santa Claus outfit is on the loose. And
do you think this was an impulsive act or that she planned it? Because her kid's home? And it seems like very sloppy planning to me. when I was watching this earlier.
I mean, it's murder. By some, like, it's obviously planned to some degree because she has a phone conversation with somebody about
Right. It's like her lover. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's maybe she thought the kid was in bed, and
The kid was in bed,
yeah,
but she got up because it's Christmas Eve. It just seems like really like if you're gonna, this just all seems like poor planning.
yeah. I mean, this is played for like some good humor. It's very, to me, it was very Alfred Hitchcock, the way this opening before Larry Drake comes in is very Trouble with Harry. Very, I mean, it's because she takes a fire poker and hits him in the head with like the edge of it, and it sticks. And she pulls it out just as her daughter's coming downstairs. What's going on? And like the guy like sits up perfectly, and you see from one angle. And like, did you get what? Or the daughter asked like something like, "What do you want for Christmas?" She's like, "I already got it," or something like that. But
yeah.
the
What's funny about that is I thought that the tone of the early scenes and this whole thing in general was very 80s, because it like I always associate stuff that's kind of like satirical about yuppies. I really associate that with the 80s, and
right.
I kind of felt that that theme in this one, in that tone.
Right. No, totally. It's definitely a play on that. And I don't know if they're, I mean, they live somewhere in the country. I don't know if they're rich or whatnot, but they do have that vibe. And definitely
this is one of those that takes place nowhere in particular. You know, a lot of the Tales from the Crypt episodes have that that kind of it makes it more timeless or universal or whatever, you know, that it's kind of, it could be anywhere. It doesn't really matter. It's not set in any specific place.
And I said, as I say on many of these later on, because I've already recorded them, but repeat myself. But a lot of these times don't expect you to think it. They didn't expect a podcast like 30 years later to be dissecting these like this. They were meant to for a quick pop. Boom. There's no continuity people that like to pick at things. You're gonna hate these, but they're meant to just be there and get out. And then you watch Taxi Cab Confessions and you forget about it and it's over. That's
I think it's also kind of like, have you ever read any of the EC comics? Or
I have not. No, I didn't. It's really weird. Like my comic reading was not into like horror comics, oddly enough. Like I read Batman. That was where I was. Batman and X-Men was where my comic reading was back in.
Well, I mean, as an adult, after I had seen the series, I went back and read some of the EC stuff. Gotcha. And it is similar. And I think it has something to do with the fact that these are morality tales.
Right.
They're, you know, they're almost biblical in the sense that like they're archetypal characters set in nowhere in particular. And it's really more about like the lesson and the comeuppance than it is about character and place.
Right. And the kind of going into like, oh, I want to watch Tales from the Crypt and be scared. I'm like, it's a different kind of horror like that. I don't know. Maybe a kid would get scared watching it. I don't know, but it's more a play of dark comedy, morality tales. Like you said, it's very adult oriented. And they're like, we're not going to scare adults. Like that's what I always talk about when like, people are like, hey, it wasn't scary. I'm like, how old are you? No, like 40 something like that. I'm like, you've got life to fear. You respect the elements, respect what they're trying to do with things, and you'll enjoy it more. Like that's,
and scary is so subjective. It's so subjective.
If you can stick in my head after, and I didn't jump or feel tense, but you stick in my head after, I give you credit. You know, like something to like think about or go, oh, that's kind of,
yeah. And I think that, you know, the original comics were, you know, gruesome and all this stuff, but they were kind of for kids. And the morality element does kind of, it might have even been like a bellwether, you know, because EC Comics was, you know, being persecuted by the federal government, you know, for too violent of comics and stuff like that. And I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if having these moral elements in these stories was one way that they would kind of deflect criticism that the stories were too violent.
Right. Yeah, like we were saying it was wrong, or she needed to learn this or something like that. Yeah.
We're teaching kids not to murder their husband on Christmas Eve.
And look what happens. She's probably going to die. The end.
Yeah, murder is bad. That's the moral of the story.
Which is it's like, this is fun because it's a nice little twist on the slasher genre. It's like a mini little slasher movie. Like, it braces tropes, but it also gives us like a double killer aspect, and then flips
Mhm.
the our final girl is like a
A killer.
killer. As like, well,
Yeah.
who's worse? Like, the mental guy, or she's, this she killed the most innocent of people. He's coming after a murderer now, technically. So
Mhm. Or is
where
the child the final girl?
is the child?
Is
Yeah,
her
that's true.
daughter
That's
the
true.
final girl?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's yeah. But the way they play it for us is that Mary Ellen Traylor, she gets all the final girl-esque scenes, but yes, the daughter's probably
Mhm.
the final girl.
Yeah, in the end, yeah, it
Mhm.
comes down to the daughter. But I do like that character, not the daughter, but the mom character
Mhm.
in this one, because she is a very classic EC Comics morality tale bad woman.
Right.
She's wearing this kind of sexy nightgown, and the only like really human thing about her is she does seem to actually care about her daughter.
No, she does. Yeah, yeah. That is, yeah. But he cries at the opera, that type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. She the thing, like, I don't know. I like going through the mental, like, because they play with you to make you think of things like a little bit before her, where you're like, oh,
Mhm.
your mind's like, she could pin this on the Santa guy if she wanted, and then you get to see that in action as it happens, and
Mhm.
they do some good plays. And Larry Drake just shows up out of fucking nowhere when he comes. It's
Mhm.
kind of funny, but
Yeah, that's kind of one of the archetypal things about,
mhm,
these Tales from the Crypt stories, is that there is kind of a lot of unspoken backstory
right,
in a lot of these. And so this particular concept was in the British movie
right,
uh Tales from the Crypt with Joan Collins,
hmm,
the anthology film from 72. And there's even less context in that. Like that one's much shorter. They don't give all the backstory that they give in this one with the lover and all that stuff. She just kills her husband in that one, and they don't even really lead
right,
into it. It's almost biblical. That's something that I like about these stories,
yeah.
about their morality aspect. It's not necessarily that I need a sympathetic protagonist, or I need a more I don't I don't need my horror to be moral. I just don't. Like, I'm fine with it
You don't
being
need woke horror, like,
but I like that these stories are almost biblical
mhm,
in the sense that they have these kind of stock characters, and it's not really about the story, it's about the lesson.
right, right, yeah.
They're,
And
they're like parables almost.
enthused with like these episodes. Like, I mean, they're all under 30 minutes. This one's
Mhm.
22 minutes. This one's even shorter.
Mhm.
Like, tight, no bullshit, off to a running start with this. And it has, like, this episode particularly has all the hallmarks of why Tales from the Crypt is so great, and at like the height. But like there's all this, they don't you get everything you would, but this today would be like a 50 to an hour episode that just stretches everything
Yes.
out, has all the,
Yes.
like, people are so
You'd have
focused.
scenes in her in bed with the lover and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right, yeah, we get to know who he was before she killed him. But
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
there's like, it's like we are so focused today on such continuity junkies, that like, so many unnecessary details that don't affect enjoyment in any way, but now we're loaded with that stuff. And I'm like, going back to this, I'm
Yeah.
like, everything's here that I need to enjoy this story. Like, and it doesn't need to
You
be
know what I
extra.
blame? You know what I blame? And I say this, listeners, I love this shit. Don't get me wrong. I blame the Star Wars novels. I blame the fact that there was a long gap in between Star Wars movies, and that the gap was filled with tons and tons and tons of, what we now call the EU.
Hmm.
I kind of think that that's kind of where this urge to take every minor detail in something and have it just explained upside down and sideways, and the backstory and the front story and what happens after that to these characters and all this kind of stuff. My personal theory, I don't have any like definitive proof for it, but I kind of trace it to the Star Wars books, because they took very minor characters from the first from the cantina scene in the first movie and wrote whole books about them.
They did. And all those bounty hunters that showed up in Empire. And uh, s- that's a good, theory. I like that. Um, Makes sense. That's where what I call fandom, DUMB, where we're at. But yeah, it's we live in a world where I'm like, fuck, this is what I dreamed, and now it's not what I wanted. We won, or did we? But yeah, like definitely, like there's just irrelevant things that like someone was talking to somebody about Halloween Kills, and it like threw him off that Michael Myers would bandage the hand with a couple fingers if he's indestructible. I'm like, that's it. Like I barely noticed that in a scene. Like that threw you off. The okay, but
Yeah, I mean, there's way more. I, excuse me. I gave this movie kind of a bad review on AV Club, so I'll
all
just
good.
refer you to that.
Go to
But
that AV Club. Katie Wright,
I
RIFE,
kind of tore this movie apart. on AV
Halloween
Club.
Kills. And if you listen, you'll probably find that we're on polar opposite sides of this, as it sounds. But all good.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
I mean, there's little nerdy stuff that bothers me too. You know, like it bothered me in Halloween Kills that Michael was like torturing that one older woman because he's not sadistic. He's just a murder machine. He's not like, he doesn't take pleasure in any of it. It's just what he does. It's his essence, in my opinion.
Possibly. But this is Tales from the Crypt all through the house.
Sorry.
Oh, good. But yeah, so this has got a lot of what it's great. I realized and I forgot, like at first I thought it was odd, and I was like, wait, no. There was like a window in the closet when she goes to get the gun. But I'm like, houses used to have those. I've been in plenty of old houses, and so I'm like, yeah, that used to be a thing. Yeah, that used to be a thing.
They didn't have electricity, maybe, and so you could see in the closet, maybe.
Right, you could see in the closet, air it out, something like that. But I'm like, okay, that's not far off. I've been in houses with, like, especially when I was in college and you live in shit houses that you're like, oh, this is a nice place. You see that kind of stuff in these old
totally
slumlord villas.
I'm really not a hung up on details kind of person usually. Like I like to observe little details.
I wasn't calling bullshit. It was just me going, that's odd, but wasn't going to take it. It was needed.
It's more so that like, okay, so like in the original Tales from the Crypt, the British anthology version, like there are things that I appreciate, you know, like in that one, her home decor is incredible. Like the thickest shag rug I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, you got a movie budget,
wacky metallic kind of sculptures and stuff, and I appreciate details like that, but I guess I don't get hung up on them and like, oh well, this detail invalidates the entire film type of way. I don't, that's just not the way I think.
No, it's totally weird. No, I was just saying that as me. I'm like, how, like if it's there in that, because I know what it's there for. She needs to get locked in, and she also needs to notice he's climbing the window, so it makes sense. Add a window there. You can kill two birds with one stone. They're probably working on a little set because that house very compact with what we see inside.
It very much looks like a sound stage, and the snow is obviously fake California snow.
Right.
Yeah.
But it works.
This is so totally like, not the spray can snow, but the kind that comes in a bag and you shake it out.
Yes. You pick it up. Don't step. If you have boots, do not step on it. No.
I feel like that stuff probably gives you cancer or something. It's just so artificial.
It's probably the asbestos from like ceilings there, because
probably.
my first apartment when I lived out there, like I had to sign a waiver that I would not touch the ceiling, and then I would not drink the water from the sink. I would only use it for cooking, bathing, and teeth brushing. California.
Okay.
It's because the city has the pipes in the city are like were not built with the future in mind, and they're all bad, and it's like I don't know if it's a slow process to replace them or whatnot. But my second apartment there, I did not have to sign a waiver for the ceiling, but I still had to do the thing about the water.
Oh wow, I've never heard of that. That's really interesting. I mean, this one takes place in movie land, obviously.
Right.
Like it's obviously a backlot, you know,
and
the
I
yard
geek out on that. I love that shit.
Outside.
I love that shit. I like soundstage stuff. And I like, because I see, you know, you can see sort of the streams, but I love to see like and appreciate the handcraft nature to everything, the way it's built,
Absolutely.
how they shoot around it, how they make it look bigger, how the I like that. Like I will tend to watch like old British television stuff because that's tons of sets, tons of costumes, and just to see how they the multicam stuff where they're like camera 2 switch, camera this, very soap opera-esque, but that's how
Mhm.
they saw it. Because here our television is informed by movies, over there it was informed by stage, and there's a very different, like
Interesting.
now they are very much in line with each other, but when in the
Right,
early days when
sure.
people were figuring out television, it was obvious, like TV. We had movies here. They were very known for stage there, and that's where they went for TV. We had staginess here too, but it went away a lot faster. And they were multicamming in the
Mm.
'80s and all that stuff, and that had been killed down to soap operas, big sitcoms, and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. I
so
mean, for the time when this show was made, like, it was pretty the prestige drama had not really kicked off when Tales from the Crypt started. It
no,
wasn't really, this was very early days for HBO.
right, yeah, they would. I mean, they wouldn't hit The Sopranos till like 98, 99.
Yep.
And then that changed everything. I mean, more than we know.
Mhm.
And the thing I love about HBO is that the TV landscape has, since in our lifetimes, from the late '90s to now, over like completely changed. HBO has always stayed HBO. From that,
Mhm.
they have not caved to any bullshit. They are still HBO. They're still, like, I watched during quarantine and stuff. I caught up on Succession. It had 2 seasons, and I was like so relieved. Why? I was like, holy shit, you guys are just you could I was like, I love that it's a serialized show and stuff, but like
Mhm.
you could jump in to a random episode of Succession, get the gist, enjoy it, maybe go back and check out previous episodes or just continue on. And I think you'd be fine. It's that good. It's that well thought out. It knows it's fucking television and it's good.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Well,
HBO is
I get to watch that show because the digital media subplot in is a little too close to home for me. So
fair enough.
I
Fair
haven't
enough.
watched it yet.
Fair
But
enough.
it's good to know that I could just jump in on the new
You
season for
probably could
sure.
jump in and figure it out. And because like the episodes, there's not like bridge episode. Like every episode is act 1, act 2, act 3. It works by itself and it continues the story. And we have gotten so fucking far away from that to where here's every episode of a show on a weekend. What was your favorite? I
Yeah.
remember the whole thing. I don't remember. I don't know. TV's TV. It can be like now we just have like elongate, like much more elongated than need to be movies on those. But we have some good shows. That's my rant.
And sometimes it's the other way,
Sometimes,
Sometimes you have
yeah.
movies
No.
where you're like,
Oh yeah.
I would have liked to see this stretched out into a TV show. I mean, the like this was one of the flagship HBO shows when it
Hmm.
first started, I
Right.
believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the landscape was so different when they were making this show.
And this was
And
different. I mean, I guess there was Twilight Zones, Tales from the Dark Sides, and stuff. But yeah.
yeah, but this was for like the pay cable audience.
Hmm.
And the comics are pretty gruesome too. Like it's less that it's like full of sex or anything like that,
Right.
that typical premium cable model, but just like they'd have really gruesome drawings, whenever they'd have, say like a zombie or something, the
Yeah.
drawings would be very gruesome in these comic books, which is, why kids like them and
Right.
why adults would pick them up and be like, what is this trash?
What are you? You're
And
gonna go to
I think a lot
hell.
of, to bring it back to the really impressive crew on this one, I would bet you $20 that a lot of those guys grew up on those comics.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I mean, yeah, they probably got together like like Donner and all them. They probably where they came from, and yeah, they also Larry Drake's face, very cool, very good
Mhm.
makeup and stuff. It's funny. Um,
Oh
and
yeah, his teeth in this are so freaky. Like
yes,
when I was watching it again earlier today, I was just really, at first I was like, that's not Clint Howard, is it? No, no, no.
no,
He kind of looked like Clint Howard at first, but it's not. It's Larry Drake. And yeah, his teeth. And then at the end of the show, we're jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
But when he says naughty or nice, it's so creepy.
He had to
because
say or nice, or the Silent Night Deadly Night people would have had a been like, hey.
Right, they would have sued him. But yeah, like they're really like, this show is funny. The Crypt Keeper's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really like about it is it keeps a little bit of the edge, and it keeps the morality tale aspect of the comics. That's what I like about this show. That's what I think sets it apart from other like Shudder's new Creep show or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that show, but it's not as conceptually as coherent as Tales from the Crypt is.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's definitely, they do have a feel. There's like, you can almost know it's Tales from the Crypt just hanging out with it for like 5 seconds, even if you didn't see.
Yeah, you could flip through the channels and be like, oh, Tales from the Crypt is on. You probably could.
For sure. Yeah, there's just that look. It's got like, it's the higher production value looking thing than some of the others, for sure. And so like this one, I know we're on episode 2, but I've seen but I think it argues to maybe be my favorite of the season 1, and it's probably because I'm weak in the knees.
This is my favorite episode.
Okay.
Like I haven't seen all of them, so I can't say, but this is my favorite episode. I love Killer Santa stuff. Obviously.
I'm weak in the knees for slashers, so yeah. You get a guy in a knife. I said I'm weak in the knees for slasher movies, so my wheelhouse right here.
Yeah.
Though there's some good stuff coming up, so yeah.
Yeah, for me, it just adds that little extra transgressive and a lot of times kind of satirical edge to have the slasher be Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like talking about Silent Night, Deadly Night, there's that quote that's like, Christmas is the scariest night of the year.
Yes.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. And there's something so wicked about it that's kind of subversive that I just love. I love Christmas horror.
It's good stuff. And there's been a good output the last few years of new Christmas horror movies like that have been really good. And I'm like, awesome. Maybe we'll get one this year or two.
Yeah, I think we could argue that there's a revival of Christmas horror going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that never fully goes away. But when I was writing this article for AV Club and kind of looking up every single specifically Killer Santa, like I didn't include Gremlins or anything like that. Yeah. There was a few in the late 70s and in the 80s, but then it kind of started up again in the late 2000s, and now it's going pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's what was the one with the little Home Alone? It's like a shithead kid, the babysitter.
Better Watch Out.
Better Watch Out. Yes, I like that one.
Home Alone, Christmas Home Alone. Yeah.
Yes.
R-rated Christmas Home Alone. That one was, I like things that kind of break taboos, obviously. Mm-hmm. And making Santa Claus a murderer is breaking a taboo.
Yeah.
And also that movie breaks taboos by having a lot of violence involving children.
Yes. Yeah, that was
like even in this one, at the end of the episode, I'm skipping ahead again. The Crypt Keeper says straight out, he like reassures the audience, don't worry, the little girl is fine. He doesn't say it that way, but he says that that Santa only killed the mom. So you don't have to worry about the kid. That's such a taboo.
Yeah, I wonder if they had to put that in there just to be like, we should probably say something.
We should probably say we didn't kill the child.
Yeah. He's like, I need people to see Back to the Future 3 next year, so we need to gotta put that in there.
Yeah, I don't want to be known as a child killer. I'm trying to get work, man. But it's interesting though, because like that kind of brings up the idea of like something that is, softening the edges a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the mom in this one is like, she's a pretty depraved individual. Like she's murdering her husband on Christmas Eve, and then she calls up her lover, and his answering machine is something like leave your name and measurements.
And she's
like,
holding the will. Like she's like, I got it.
Yeah. And then she calls 911, pretends, oh my God, he killed my husband, trying to get off the hook for it and everything. She's kind of a classic Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Protagonist, antagonist, whatever you want to call it, because they're usually morally compromised.
Yeah. Troubled people. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's an interesting role for Mary Ellen Trainor. Like, I don't think she's normally supporting character, but never like someone like vicious and devious like this. And she gets to be crazy and
like a sociopath. She
Yeah.
feels nothing about murdering her husband on Christmas Eve and then lying to her daughter about it.
Right.
She does seem to care about her daughter a little bit, which I think is the most interesting aspect of the character. It keeps her from being just a full cartoon.
Right. And we don't know who this guy was before she murdered. We could assume maybe it was abusive or something like that, or maybe, but since she has a lover, it's kind of like maybe she's projecting these things to do something like that. I don't know, but it's not there. It's not. The point is, we have a murderer that has a murderer put on them. Like that's the joke. That's the play here. It's like, oh, we did all this only to have a murderer come after you. Now, how does it feel now?
It's kind of classic Tales from the Crypt, though, because it is always about like kind of like karma and comeuppance and all this kind of stuff. And have a murderer go after a murderer. That's karma, right?
Right. Yep. Totally. Instantly. Instant karma.
Yeah, it truly is instant karma, isn't it?
Because the minute she drags him outside, the radio's like, everybody, there's a killer on the loose. There's a Santa Claus. He's killed he's already killed people on his way. Like, probably stopping by this house.
He escaped from an asylum. I think they don't say it outright, but they kind of explain why he would be dressed as Santa Claus by saying he escaped from an asylum.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. But yeah, no, this is a great one. This is like the first. It's really weird because the first episode, it's an odd start because this would be a good start. I think it's a better start than the Sadler one, but the Sadler one's a weird start itself, and this would be a weird start because here we're opening up Tales from the Crypt with Christmas. So
yeah, I'm always, like I said, I'm always so fascinated with the decision to run Christmas stuff not at Christmas time, and like, why didn't they save this one for whatever air date was closest to Christmas? Like, I probably
Tales from the Crypt Christmas special.
Holiday special. Hell yeah, dude. I'd watch that.
Hell
big time. I'd watch that. Maybe it was because they had such solid names behind the camera and in front of the camera on this one that they wanted to lead with it because it was so strong.
Yeah, because the Sadler one's like a guy talking to the camera constantly and about the electric chair. It's a nice morality tale, but it's just the perspective is a bit weird to start off with. The next one wouldn't have been that great either. Like I almost feel like the one that could have been like the normal safe intro probably would have been the Leah Thompson one, but that's its own thing too. But they're also unique. Like nothing feels repetitive throughout these, as you'll find out, listeners, down the road, because the second one.
Yes, this is a broader thing, but that is one of the things I like about Tales from the Crypt. And I always enjoy this as a concept when they have certain outlines for the concept. And like we were saying, it's like morality play is a big part of it. Usually there's a monster of some sort. And beyond that, they just kind of let them do whatever.
Right.
But this one, I would think, isn't really doing whatever because it's based on that short from the movie Tales from the Crypt, the anthology movie.
Right. Yeah, because this is it's a remake, modernized remake. So.
Right. Sure. So really what they were adding is they Americanized it and they kind of added that. I really associate that kind of satirical, that mean satirical tone. I really associate it with the 80s in my mind. It's a 80s filmmaking thing to me.
For sure. Yeah. You could just do whatever and not have to worry about it. Because we would laugh.
I guess because I grew up on Joe Dante movies and stuff, and I'm like, the 80s were a good time.
We could just laugh at that stuff or just do it. It's a movie. Who cares? Now it's someone's life or whatever.
Oh my God. You would never get away with that monologue about her parents dying on Christmas in Gremlins. That would never make it to the screen today. Not in a PG movie. Absolutely not.
No. Oh my.
Yeah, and there's some comedic touches in this episode too.
Mhm.
Like she keeps dropping her keys.
Drop-
Like I
yep.
thought it was very funny when she drops her keys on the stairs, and it's like, yeah, they're right there, and then they're not right there at all.
Right.
So she has to go to her husband's dead body and get his keys.
That's good. And then like then the door, as she's swinging the axe, when she brings it down, the door hits the thing, keeping it open at the cadence of the axe, so she doesn't notice it's hitting, and then until the falls over and locks on her.
Yep.
This is good
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this one, it definitely has that like funny, mean tone that I
Mhm.
very much associate with this era of filmmaking specifically.
Yeah, for sure. You got any more on it? Or
Hmm. I mean, I could probably talk a little more about oh, I love well, speaking of that kind of like mean-spirited satirical tone,
Mhm.
like the very, very end of this episode when she's on the stairs screaming,
Yeah.
for some reason that like it really strikes me funny. Do you think that's meant to be comedic at the end?
Because they hold on her and she doesn't move. Like she just sits
No,
screaming like,
she doesn't move. She
come
just sits
get
there.
me. I'm screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about it, like when I was watching the episode again earlier today, like something about that in particular just like really struck me funny. That and her reaching for the keys, like those two scenes just really struck me funny this time when I
Yeah. The
watched
key's funny
it.
because it falls through like a crack in the stairs when she does drop
Mhm.
them. And then
Yeah.
the screaming, I wonder if they're like shot it that way. Like, and then they're like, we're going to fade at some point during this. So just keep screaming. And we have it we have it,
Just keep going. Just keep going.
we have it natural. And then they just like, the editor didn't get the note, or they're like, we need this to hit the 22, the such and such minute mark.
Right.
And
Oh my
they held
God.
on. I don't know.
There was a meeting and they were like, we need 20 more seconds. And they were like, we had her screaming for a while. How about
See,
that?
we sit and debate, like it's like the end of House or City of the Living Dead, where people debated what that ending meant for years until someone finally revealed, no, we spilled coffee on the ending and didn't have money to go reshoot or film, so we just made some shit up there. And people are like, is he saying the kid is now possessed by a zombie? Is that what he's doing? And they're like, no. Some
They
fucker
were just
spilled
making it
coffee on the film reel. It was damaged beyond repair. They couldn't reshoot. They didn't process. It was on the negative, I think. That was the problem. And yeah. And for years, people have been debating. There's people like, what's with that ending of City of the Living Dead? Nah, fucking cheap Italian production, man. That's.
I mean, to be fair, this is one of those cases where you have Hollywood professional filmmakers with budget recreating those type of details for humorous purposes.
Right. So yeah, that was straight. I did remember, like, I was sitting there, I was like, man, this is taking its time. It's like, is there someone gonna jump in and save her here, or the cops gonna show? Like, no, oh, it's over. But yeah, it was there for maybe they're supposed to make us want that hope or think something else is coming, and then it just ends.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that because there is sort of a mean-spirited streak that crosses through all the Tales from the Crypt episodes. Like it's funny. It's supposed to be funny, but it can be kind of a cruel joke sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up here.
Okay, bud.
All right. So
that's
a
good note to end on. Talking about good.
Talking about the end,
good.
Right? So that'll
for sure. And just like the tone of it, and I don't know if you do this. Well, when I'm talking on a podcast, sometimes I try to think of like, okay, here's something I can say that would be a good button. Like if I feel like we're getting towards the end. And that was a button statement. So
boom. There we go.
Boom. Gotcha.
All right. That'll end this Morbid Tale. Katie, thank you for returning on here to discuss. It's been way too long.
No.
But you're here again, and I appreciate it. And appreciate your time.
I love coming on because I feel like when you come on a show, how you know it's really going well is when this sounds counterintuitive, but when you're struggling to stay on topic because you have so much to talk about, I feel like that's like a good sign. It means you have good chemistry.
Yes, definitely. And I let it go, and it works. And it's like, oh, well,
Yeah.
we don't talk to each other. Like, we don't get to do this every day. So we need to get it all in now.
For sure.
Secret of podcasting. But before we go, let people know what's up with you lately and where they can keep up with all things you.
Well, I'm still writing for avclub.com. We've got Horrors Week coming up the last week in October, and I've got a few things planned for that. I did an interview with the authors of a few horror novelizations, and I'm kind of taking a look at novelizations. And I have a interview that I'm working on with Kayla Janice, who she works at Severin Films. She's kind of a legendary film programmer. She has this documentary, Woodlands Dark and Days Deep, coming out. And so I have like a very extended, detailed interview with her where she talks about kind of recommendations for how to get into folk horror. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
Nice. Excellent. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. Written work at whysoblue.com tomorrow. We have Aaron Neuwirth. He comes back to the show to discuss Dig That Cat. ... He's real gone. And until then, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.